Like I said in the previous video, these variables here are called fields. And generally fields are private, they are not public. So we're going to change this to private. And private is just another access modifier. Like I said, we're going to talk about access modifiers a bit later in the course. But basically what private means is that this variable can't be accessed from outside of the class. It's accessible only here inside the class. If we go back to our main method here, you will see that now we have an error and it says that the X variable is not accessible due to its protection level. Alright, if we can't access them like that, how can we access them? Well, the way to access them is to use properties. In order to create a property, you can use the shortcut that Visual Studio has, and this is prop tap tap, or you can just write it out manually. It's totally up to you. I like to use the shortcuts. The property usually has, most of the time, a public access modifier, a data type, which is the same as the data type of the field that you want to access, and the name of the property follows the name of the field. The difference is in the naming convention. The name of the property must be in Pascal case and the name of the field is in camel case. So if you want to use this property for the X variable, we're going to name it capital X. Now you can see here that we have something odd, something that we haven't seen yet, getters and setters. What the getters and setters are used for is to get and set a value. They can be expanded and they can have their own code. So let's just expand them really fast and give them their own curly brackets. What we have to do now is we need to write a piece of code that will set a value and another piece of code that will get a value. We said that the properties are used to access and modify the values of the fields, so we also need to use the field variables here. So how do we set a value for the X field? Well, we're going to say X equals, and here we're going to use another keyword we haven't seen yet, and this is the value keyword. So just write value. The value keyword will basically give you the value that you assign to the property. So when we go back here, you can see that now I can see only the X property that I just created and I can't see any of the fields. So if I use the capital X here and give it the value 5, the 5 is what we're going to get here. This value will get the value that is being assigned to the property. This is one part of the things that we have to do. Our setter is now completed. We have to handle the getter now. The getter needs to return the value of the field that we are using. So all we have to do is say return X. This is all that we need to do. And now when we use our, let me delete this. When we use our property, it will set and get the value for this field. We can't access the field directly, we are doing it through the property. So how does this help us in any way? There is no difference between just having the X field as a public, then to just get it and set it from the property. Two reasons. The first reason is that we may have other fields that don't need any properties. The fields that are only for internal use of the class and they need to stay private. We may, for example, have a private int xy sum field, for example, which is just going to calculate the sum, and then we're going to have a method that prints the sum on the console. This field does not need to be accessed from the outside world. We don't need to have a property for it because we're not going to assign anything to it. This is one of the reasons. The other reason is that here inside the curly brackets of the get and set methods, you can write code, not just X equals to value and return X, but you can write ifs, loops, anything that you want. Basically, This is the place where, if you need to, you can perform a validation. And we're going to see how to do this in the next lecture.